For those of you who haven't met me before, I've been on with Angel Business Club for, well, you've supported me actually pretty much from the start, so I'm very grateful for that. And my background very much started at kind of as a student in my third year at Border University, became passionate about wine, worked for Majestic and then Champagne Bollinger, and then set up my first company, Harlington Wine, back in 2005, fully working on it in 2006. And I thought, I kind of forgot that you actually had to sell wine to have a business. I just went around lots of different vineyards across Europe and found the best wines I could ever, that I'd never heard of, and basically came over and sold them in the UK. So the first few years, really getting to know the growers. And as many of you have been big supporters of our direct-to-consumer company, Trailblazing Wine, we still introduce superb wines to market. And if you haven't been on the website for a while, if you go onto the Trailblazing Wine website and join our club, then I'll send you some a 6-bottle pack of the Aldea sparkling wine. So it's worth going on there and having a look. But our background, we became very well known for introducing wines to the supermarkets. A lot of the buyers I got to know back in the early days of 2006-07 became very senior in the trade. So I'm very lucky to have a network of very sort of senior and influential buyers in the UK, particularly market. And subsequently, I've been working on with the European Regional Development Fund as their food and drink lead in the UK, particularly in Buckinghamshire. And so my network beyond the UK is expanding too. So we were the first to market with Slovenian wine, getting listings in Waitrose and also Tesco's and all the major sort of Michelin-starred restaurants. So the starting point journey with the Angel Business Club was bringing wines direct to consumer, direct to your door, and we basically cut out all routes to market. So we shipped from the vineyards, and typically give you sort of savings of at least sort of 15 to 20% on the traditional channel costs. This is really trailblazing. As I say, if you go on the website, you can see some of the wines we're working with, and we're constantly looking for. Some of you have actually been great at sending me vineyards to look at in France and beyond. So please keep those coming, because it's always good to have a niche. And I know in July, Dominic and I have got some interesting wines, including wines that are sold at Gordon Ramsay's restaurant at probably 10% of the price, I'd probably suggest. So look out in July, we'll have some tremendous wines. And we also work with some sort of fairly niche and interesting top-end wines from Chablis as well, and Champagne. So lots of really interesting things to look at there. But what I wanted to get onto really was what's been happening over it's actually been 5 years. I've been looking at the wine market in particular and the soft drinks market. And what we found in the UK in particular is, obviously going over to France, you realise how much cheaper the wine is in the retail environment over there than over here. There are many factors involved, but a really significant factor of the price of wine in the UK is we have extremely high tax and duty on wine compared to other markets. And therefore, you're already paying at least £2.50 on top of a bottle of wine, whether you're paying £3.99 in a leading kind of discount supermarket. You're still paying that fixed price on duty. So that was a big hurdle. And with seeing that cigarettes in that category, you're not permitted to smoke in public places, and the way that legislation's going towards that side, I felt that it could be a market that becomes more and more difficult to trade effectively in. And around that time, I also had an operation, which meant I couldn't drink for 6 months. And the sort of soft drink options in the marketplace were not inspiring, kind of the J2O or Coca-Colas. So I set about around 5 years ago looking at how to introduce interesting fermented soft drinks that work with food. So that was my starting point. And I must say that the beginning of that journey was extremely difficult. We looked at all kinds of ways of removing the alcohol, from naturally sort of harvesting grapes very early, but that made a very sort of acidic type of product. And really there was nothing that we could take to market until I met a chap, Ben Branson, who launched Seedlip Gin, which many of you might have heard of now. It was the first non-alcoholic gin on the market. I got in touch with him because I saw that he was having some success with that and said, I'm looking at getting into wine. Would you be interested in working with me on that? And at that point, he couldn't go into the wine side. He'd had an offer from Diageo for some of his company, but very kindly gave me a lot of contacts in the USA. So I got working with a company in Santa Rosa and also UC Davis of California to look at technology to remove the alcohol, but the most important bit, to actually replace the flavour that the alcohol brings, because the alcohol brings the structure and all sorts of things to the table that are very difficult to replicate artificially. And so we work with scientists, and we've now come up with an excellent alternative non-alcoholic wine. And fortunately, I wasn't alone in thinking that the market is booming. There's a market that are crying out for interesting soft drinks, and so we're kind of catching the wave at a really good time. The product on the table is our first beta product. The company we're working with in Santa Rosa test products in Spain, and we got some. We developed the Aldea kind of formulas. Aldea have their own brand, but they kindly let us create our formulas with them to launch this to market. But I have to say, you can try this on the table now, but in the past 12 months, we've been working with the scientists in Spain, and we've come up. We're absolutely over the moon with the final formula. So we have a white, which is kind of similar to a New Zealand sparkling Sauvignon Blanc. We've got a rosé, which is sparkling as well, but we've benchmarked with Provence rosé to give that sort of sensory feel. And on the red, we've gone for kind of a Beaujolais style, kind of carbonic maceration, lively red wine. So we've got a range of 3, and we finalised those formulas last month. The vineyards are in kind of La Mancha in Spain. They're the perfect grapes for producing low alcohol wines. As I say, we've started with that, but we're moving. I was just going to say, before going on to the branding of our new thing, so you've got the beta product on the table, but I just wanted to say another element to working with the Angel Business Club is we don't just operate in a bubble. We not only network with you, and you enable us to sort of carry out these projects, but we also collaborate with the other businesses where appropriate. And Ian, who is exemplary at creating brands, and his marketing is superb, and my taste is pretty good, and in terms of product and sensory, and so we kind of work together in getting the formulas right. And as you know, Skinny Tonic has done well, and sort of helped introduce Ian to Asda, and so and working on the formulas. So just to say, we don't work in a bubble. We're working with Angel Business Club. You see that we work with lots of different businesses. And that was a very interesting meeting not that long ago, where we were finalising the final formulas for the tonics back in only October last year. So it's relatively recently. So that moves on to Ian. Actually helped me with the branding for the House of Zero, which we're going to market. We're finalising now. We're hoping to go to market in September with our House of Zero. We started in bottle with a sparkling rosé and the white. We now have a red, but we've also noticed that environmentally wise, the can is hitting all the right boxes at the moment. In terms of ecological packaging and also convenience, it's becoming a real packaging format that's liked by the market. Just as we were doing this, only in April this year, in Harper's, which is the main wine publication, it says switching to cans and lower ABV can boost sales. I was watching Sunday Brunch, and they're trying wine in a can. One of those cans was £20 retail, which would be a half bottle at 20. So that they're really putting premium wines into can. So that's where we are. We're looking to go to market, to introduce to market in September, and depending on sort of when there's availability on shelf, we hope to be in the first 2 quarters of 2020 selling non-alcoholic wine in can, the first time ever. So yeah, thank you very much.